How's everyone doing? So, Strength Chat episode 42, and today I've got an in-person guest, Ross Mackenley of Aesthetically Trained. How are you doing?
Yep, good Steve, thanks for having us on.
No worries at all. What have you been up to?
Well, I come to Leeds once a week to PT at Graft House, so I'm down here today, do a few sessions with my clients, my online clients come and meet us here, and then back up to Newcastle tomorrow, which is where I'm based now.
Nice. What gyms are you up at in Newcastle?
In Newcastle, I'm at a gym called Sculpt, and then obviously the bulk of my work and Aesthetically Trained is all online.
Okay,
so that's
nice.
what I mainly work with. But, yeah.
So in terms of the background, obviously we did the same course.
Mm-hmm.
What is your background and how did you develop into what Aesthetically Trained is today?
Yeah, so as Steve said, both went to uni together, went to Leeds Met, sport and exercise science, but before that, I got there by being a failed footballer, so I'm sure like many of you might have played a little bit of sport when you're younger. Failed at that basically. I'd done it to a professional level, but I knew I wasn't going to play at the very, very top elite. So I basically, in the end of that, working with an S&C coach, probably someone like Steve or the other lads here that I know who do S&C, they got us more and more into training. Originally started on programs like the Franco's programs, things like that, while I was still at football, working with an S&C coach. And by the end of my time as a footballer, towards the end of my contract, I realised that actually I was enjoying the gym more than football.
Yeah.
Now I don't play football at all. This is 10 years ago, but that's how I got there. And the course that I done alongside football, all apprentices do a 1 day a week in a college, and that's what got us into university. Obviously went to uni at Leeds, and then sort of ended up running a gym called Edge, which was based in Leeds. And then now I've went recently in the last year to Aesthetically Trained, which is now all based online, apart from some specialist PT in person. So
Okay, nice.
yeah, that's how it's went through.
Nice. So obviously, for anyone who follows Ross on Instagram or follows results, obviously the results that you get with your clients is awesome. How did you always set out to sort of focus on that area, or did you sort of dabble in everything and then think, actually, I'm pretty good at this and I want to hone in on that?
I think probably due to maybe my background in sport and stuff when I was younger, I've always been very focused on anything I'm doing.
Yeah.
And certainly always want to be the best at it. So my focus when I was in uni was I chose to train my friends for free when I was younger, even when I was like 18, 17, writing programs. And then I've kind of progressed that, and I've always focused mainly on lads. Obviously, we're lads, that's who we know the best. So typically lads between 20 and 35. I do help women, but now I only help women by referral. So I don't train any women unless it's the girlfriend of a lad I train or a direct referral, because what I want to spend my time on is being the very, very best at helping natural lads get in shape. So I spend everything on that really, and particularly the training side. I specialise more in the training, I would say. My nutrition knowledge is pretty good. I know you've had Chris Lowe on before and lads like that. That's a lad who obviously I've kind of grown up with a little bit as well, and he's another level again in nutrition, but certainly the training and getting natural lads in shape is what I really specialise in. So.
Shout out for Chris. I think he's a record breaker. He's had 3 episodes, but yeah, he was referral from sort of Ross and Matt, who also works down at Primal. If you've not watched any of Chris's episodes, the guy's level on nutrition is really, really good. So he's become my sort of go-to person.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think for all of obviously Stephen, the different people that have been on the podcast so far, they've all got a specific niche. I think that to be really the best in an area, you'd better be able to say, look, I maybe don't work with. If someone really wants to work with us, I will. But generally speaking, it's lads who I know how they think, how they work, the problems they're likely going to have, and I've done it. Well, yeah, now probably getting on hundreds of times in terms of getting people in like really, really sick shape. Not just your standard transformations, but that's practice. And certainly when I was younger, when I look back at some of the programs I've done, I started off on like Riptos, 3 sets of 5, all that kind of stuff, done like 5-3-1 starts. So I've been through probably a lot of the programs that some of your listeners has been through as well. But yeah, certainly that's when I'm now more aesthetics based stuff and getting people in shape.
So who's your, obviously you said you started off doing some of the DeFranco stuff. Obviously quite a lot of people will come to, and much like yourself, people will come to you and say, right, I've found this program, what do I want to do? Who are your sort of influences? Who do you sort of look at?
It's changed throughout my career, if you like. I think initially I'd say DeFranco, maybe it's more strength-based stuff, just because that was what I'd been introduced to at the time. Sort of your athletes, if you like, and then going more towards bodybuilding. So I've worked with a few different coaches. Worked with a coach called Phil Green, who's based out in Ireland. A guy called Mark Coles, who owns M10 in Nottingham. I go to a lot of his seminars and stuff. And then now John Meadows, who's a coach in America, he's called like Mountain Dog on Instagram. So I follow a lot of his programs now. I'd like to probably work with him, but he's very expensive. but all that kind of stuff, and I'm always reading T-Nation. Grew up with T-Nation, since I was like 17, 18. So that's probably my main go-to website for lads. Obviously today, maybe it's muscle building and stuff. You've got your standard men's house of that, but to really get into it on a little bit deeper level, I would always go to T-Nation first, see who you like on there, and then go from there. But that's kind of where I've run with. So.
Yeah, I remember sitting down and just typing it in, and there's loads of stuff on T-Nation. And as well, if you do type it in, there's loads of different coaches on there as well, and then you can branch out and see who you actually want to follow. So there's a couple of people that I've learned off there that I've followed through T-Nation. So going into the main bulk of the chat today, obviously getting people in really good shape. Do you have a template for that? Because obviously people will come in and be like, oh yeah, I've downloaded this program, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Obviously you've honed it in, you've got it down to a T now. The results speak for themselves. What is your go-to template? How do you start off?
So I think obviously for everyone, the key thing is in terms of lads, whether you want to build muscle, whether you want to lose fat, what we all want to be doing is stimulating muscle growth, muscle protein synthesis in terms of nutrition, stimulate that optimally for all muscle groups. Assuming we're all natural lads, that's what I specialise in working with. We've got to look at how many times we can train a muscle in a week and how that reflects in with training. So I typically like 4 sessions a week with an optional 5th session. I base most of my programs around 4 because I find that most lads, busy, sort of our age, maybe he's just getting into a career, you might not have the time to always commit to 5, but the 5th one's there. So I tend to do an upper lower split with it, maybe as a full body as an optional 5th. But in terms of starting out and having like a real good base for maybe some of the more beginners who's listening and stuff, squat, bench, deadlift, those typical like classic things. If it was someone coming as an absolute beginner in the gym, I've got like typically like a 3 workout a week program, which is literally just perfecting those movements first, because those big compound movements and be able to add weight is what long term is going to make you add muscle, and doing them under the right form with keeping tension on the working muscle is what I'd look to do in the beginning, and then build from there.
Yeah. So a lot of people will say, I'm glad you mentioned the compound lifts. Obviously, a powerlifter at heart, still want to keep them involved. A lot of people will focus on the smaller exercises. Is there a place for them after the main sort of lifts? How do you work with those?
So I still think I always tend to base pretty much all my workouts and all my programming across the week around compound lifts. So depending on the person's specific goals, if they've got a specific body part that they want to train, I'd always look at the training frequency, say for shoulders or for chest or whatever it is. If it's a body part you maybe is weak on, I'd look to go 3 times a week with adequate rest in between. But generally speaking, all body parts twice a week. No matter calves, a lot of people maybe don't have great calves, but not training them. I know I've suffered with that for years. That's a thing of you've got to make sure you're training the muscle to stimulate it to grow in the first place. If you're not doing it and you're not taking it through all the ways it can be grown, it's not going to work. But in terms of the actual compounds, I always have them in every session. Unless it's a very specific sort of a, what I call maybe like an addition or a tag on session where we're literally just going for maybe arms or shoulders or a weak body part. But you know, squat, bench, deadlift, sumo deadlift, front squats, I tend to split it up across the week, make sure that I've got some variation of everything in. Probably my biggest tip for younger lads or lads, the thing I've noticed with people is that if you leave out an exercise when you're younger and you don't do it for a few years, you're going to be very reluctant to do it later. So I would always try and keep some variation of it in, just to keep you engaged in doing it, and you'll be happy with that long term that you haven't stopped doing it. A lot of lads stop deadlifting or stop squatting, and then they're very, very reluctant, or they're a bit worried about doing it later because they're so weak relative to the other lifts. If you keep it in all the time, even just some sort of variation will keeps you focused on it and the movement pattern in, you'll then, those exercises are what you can put the most the most weight on the bar, which in some cases I'm sure we'll get on to, can help you build the most muscle. So
I think that picked up on there is the variation of that lift. So a lot of people come in and be like, oh well, when I deadlift from the floor, my back's killing me. You know, I'm not very good at this or that. How far do you go away from the lift in terms of the variations, like maybe block pulls?
Yes, I think obviously when I was knew I was going to come today, I was thinking about how maybe I do stuff differently, and for aesthetics, how we look at things differently versus powerlifting versus strength. Now you probably break a lift down. I know I haven't been trying to get lifts better, specifically block pulls, or even in terms of regression, breaking a deadlift down to maybe trap or deadlift, however we build up. What I would do differently with sort of in terms of getting in the best shape possible is looking at building the muscle across all the range of the muscle as opposed to necessarily the lift.
Yeah.
So in terms of your chest, and we'll probably get onto more detail in terms of like say when it's fully lengthened, when it's fully shortened, through the mid-range, and making the person strong in all ranges, which is then going to help the compound lifts, but it's also going to help you build more muscle and make you strong in every area, which long term for us aesthetics based people, it's going to help us build and obviously look our best.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I break it down a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that was a good way of explaining it, because I know a lot of people will chat to me about it, and obviously from a strength and powerlifting point of view, it's like, right, well, how do I make it stronger? But in terms of obviously goals for, right, I want to get in the best shape possible.
Yeah.
Thinking about it in a different way, and you kind of vary.
So for example, like a good one to use is chest. It's one that people can always relate to because everyone loves training chest, of course. So like say if you are benching, I imagine you'll look at, are you feeling at your chest? You might do specific exercise for that. Or lockout, you might work your triceps. What I will be looking at is a fully shortened range, a lengthened range, or fully stretched, and then a mid-range. So across the working week, or if it was a specific workout within that workout, training the muscle in all areas using different rep ranges to get the optimal stimulus for it to grow. So for chest, for example, having the muscle fully shortened, getting your humerus, getting your upper arm across your chest, and having the muscle as tight as you can possibly get, that would maybe use an exercise like a cable fly, or something where there's tension. That would be the fully shortened element of that. Bench press is a great example for the mid-range because it's never fully shortened, it's never fully lengthened. And then your dumbbell fly, or maybe it's a dumbbell press where you're really exaggerating or using an extended range to fully stretch the muscle. In that case then, in terms of if we look at the muscle as a whole, we've trained it in all areas, we're going to have the most possible stimulus for it to grow. You're equally going to get stronger for your stuff, but from my point of view, I'm making sure that I'm exhausting every kind of opportunity for it to grow. It's not going to grow in a specific area, like some people say, doing it for biceps, say, training a short head, it's not going to grow a specific part. It's going to mean the whole muscle grows more effectively, which is obviously going to make it bigger. Yeah. So that's the goal.
That's a lot more, because a lot of people, for when they're talking about getting in good shape and stuff, most of it's we'll just do that. Obviously, there's method behind the madness.
So yeah. Like the easiest thing for your listeners, I think, is just in terms of every muscle, every workout is just, are you working it from a different range? Yeah. So are you squeezing it as tight as you possibly can? Are you working it through a strength, through a range where it's strongest? Using the bench press as an example, that's probably the strongest range or the most weight you can lift for your chest. The shortest range, like I said before, was maybe a cable fly, and then a dumbbell fly. I think when your arm's furthest away from you, it's in a stretch position. The lever and the moment of the tension on it is going to be the biggest stretch on the muscle for that one. So that's how I look at it, but over the course of a week for every muscle to make sure that we're growing optimally. And then obviously as a consequence, I do get people very strong, but it's certainly not the goal that I set out to do. Yeah. It's one of the factors, but it's not my only thing. Like you obviously specialise in that as a
Yeah. So, good. So obviously you mentioned there about changing the different range of the movements. Now, obviously down at, I know down at Graft House there are machines. Down at Primal we only have cable machines. The whole thing of, you need to be doing free weights to get better. No, you need to be using cable machines or actually fixed machines. What's your take on that, and how do you use them?
So I think any good coach, PT, online coach, however you want to look at it, should be able to coach someone through a session using just dumbbells or barbells. Certainly, like I say, I went to uni here, the gym I used to be a part of Edge. We were mainly a sort of performance, very similar to Primal, barbells, dumbbells. We didn't even have a leg extension. I've got fairly big legs. And all I ever used to do was front squat, back squat, different squat variations or lunge variations. You should have different methods to go to. What I would say for upper body and lower body, and this is something I've probably learned more in the last year or 18 months, stability is really, really important for everyone. So learning how to lock a muscle down, keep your scapula retracted, keep your hips fixed for your lower body exercises is no matter what exercise you're doing, dumbbell, barbell, cables, you're going to be able to get more out of the targeted muscle. Yeah. If we're unstable, we're going to be shaking, putting the tension and putting the focus of the exercise onto maybe a muscle that we're not intending. In terms of the kit, I really think that every piece of kit's got its place, but the programming side of things, if your coach or you yourself knows your gym, there's no reason you can't really using things like tempo or specific coaching cues, get the most out of just dumbbells or barbells. Certainly I did for years. I think now for a lot of lads, they're using machines for the majority of exercises, and it's causing this instability, or they're not even maybe actually contracting the muscle properly because they haven't learned how to contract the muscle, but they're jumping on an exercise or a machine that makes them do it almost artificially. You're kind of missing the beginning stage. So my advice for everyone would be start off dumbbells and barbells, learn your basics first, your powerlifting stuff first, that's always going to be the basic training, and then use the machines. I would never base my training solely on machines. So that's not something I would do personally anyway.
I think that's a good, absolute dropping knowledge bombs all over the place. I think that is something that, especially once you've gone out sort of maybe the more conventional gyms and gone to places like Graft House and Primal, that is something that people are a little bit unsure of. Well, actually, I've always used machines, and that's why it could be a little bit harder when it goes on and using back squats.
I mean, like machines and stuff are great. You can use, leg press, whatever it is for legs. There's a lot of ways where if you've got a specific lagging body part, what I would look at is how a machine can fix you into a position that maybe naturally you can't get into, that stimulates muscle. So for some of you that are listening, particularly maybe with Steve, I've seen squatting and stuff. If you're low bar squatting, you're probably going to use more your lower back, your spine, your hamstrings, glutes. You're probably not going to use quads as much. A lot of lads come to me and they want to get big quads, but they squat low bar. Well, that's probably not, it's still stimulating your quads, but what you've got to understand is how can you get the most out of a movement, and what are you already doing, and how does that impact your training and stuff. So say for example, a lot of lads saying with squats, the first thing I would do is get you to a hack squat, close stance, feet pretty much together, in a range what you wouldn't normally do for a normal squat, because you're either not able to or it's an unnatural position, and then you're going to stimulate not necessarily more muscle, but maybe to be able to target it a little bit better on an area what you haven't been able to previously, which then again in terms of muscle hypertrophy you're going to get a lot bigger. But also if you're using your strength, you might be able to focus on an area where you're failing in your lifts. So that's a very common one that a lot of people do. They want to get big quads, but they're hip hinging with a squat, which is obviously maybe how to lift the most weight, but it's not how you're going to get the biggest quads.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. So it's my sort of off season, if you like, in powerlifting now. Any people that do squat low bar, any powerlifters watching, you think, I've got a big squat. Try doing the hack squats and that sort of stuff, and you'll realise that you will be targeting your quads, and it's not as maybe as easy as doing the low bar. So in terms of just going back a little bit. Mentioned about activating the muscle and stabilising that sort of stuff. A lot of people will come in, they'll get a program and they'll warm up with a couple of dumbbells or barbell, whatever it may be, and then they'll just get into the workout. I know I place a big emphasis on the actual movement, on actually being able to move and be a functional human rather than just doing the workouts. How much emphasis do you place on the movement prep and that sort of stuff?
So these guys love a warm-up. So obviously I'm friends with Steve and Matt, and in terms of warming up and stuff, I think it's obviously specific to the listener, the client if you like, or the lad in my case, who it is. So I'd always have a specific warm-up for the person based on where they're lacking or what they personally need to cue. Typically, 5 to 10 minutes. I probably do a lot of the standard exercises that you guys do. But then I'd go more into stuff like I was saying, if it was an upper body session, looking at scapular retraction, engaging with sort of mid-back or rhomboids and traps and stuff, and nipping down and back, so that we've got that stability to then press from. So that's something that I always do. Same with lower body, engaging with glutes so that we're not shaking and things like that. But more of the movement thing, I think, for my lads, because the people that I work with generally, I agree on, but I'm certainly working with lads who are maybe a little bit further along, so I'm probably not teaching them to move, although definitely agree that it's like it is a fundamental part. Certainly a lot of the lads and maybe some of your listeners is maybe doing exercise incorrectly or not warming up for a period of time, and then you come to someone like me or Stephen, we might say, do you know what, to get your chest better, actually pulling your shoulder blades back and engaging your back's the best thing. So that's how I would look at it. For you listening, I would probably say look at where you're failing on your lifts, or what's causing you to fail, or what's causing you to not get the most. If your shoulder's rolling around when you're pressing, that's going to affect your chest because you can't pin it back, you can't engage your chest. You need to be doing some scapular retraction. in terms of your lower body, the same sort of thing, looking at where you're weak in the lift and then basing your warm up on that would be what I would do, rather than maybe bird dogs and things like that.
Yeah.
But certainly stuff I've done, and whenever I come and train with Matt, Steve in the future, I'm sure, is that stuff that these guys do, and it's great, and you do feel a lot better for it. I would always base it on what gym I'm in, who it is, and then the workout ahead. I think it switches you on more as well that way. So having a workout that's a warm up that's specific to that workout would be something that I would always do.
I think you couldn't have really summed that up any better, really. I know it is based on your level. So some people might have really poor movement, but I've never trained before, so you might be able to spend a little bit longer on there.
Yeah.
Obviously, the guys that you're training, the lads that you're training, are coming to you because they either want to go to that next level, and push it on a little bit.
And as well, ramp up. So this is something that I put on my programs all the time, but obviously learning how to ramp up effectively depending on what level you're at. So by ramp up, I just mean the strongest people I know always still start with a bar on bench and squat. So get used to the movement pattern, build up slowly, don't just stick 100 kilo on, make sure you build up your working set so that you're getting the most out of them. So that you're not wasting any of them actual sets that you're writing down, and don't write down a set that isn't actually, I know some people use RPE scales and stuff like that. That's not something I do personally, but I again understand the method with it. But making sure that each set counts in terms of writing it down. I'm a very, very, very big sort of fan and always encourage all my clients, print off your workouts, write down what you're doing, beat it the next week, your standard progressive overload. So
I think that's sometimes what you have to have that progression. It's not just a case of I'll stick with the same way. Obviously you need to have that progression along. So in terms of, obviously you mentioned there, leading nicely into sort of the next bit, what sort of rep ranges, what sort of your how would a standard workout look?
So I put this on Instagram today or whenever it was, but my Instagram always covers stuff like this, Facebook as well. But typically with my workouts and stuff, I would look at obviously activating and stabilising the muscle first. We've just been through, so that might be some form of scapular retraction, something for your lower body. So stabilise first, and then my next thing would be to activate or get some blood into the muscle that we're going to be training next. So typically your first two exercises would always be that kind of theme, and then I go into my main lift, which would be sort of my strongest or my strength indicator of the day, if you like. On my programs, I always highlight them for my clients. That's the thing that I'm going to be really judging the progress of, because you still want some form of strength or some form of weekly feedback. Is that, are you getting stronger alongside, or we're growing, or we're looking our best? We still need to have some numbers to something that's tangible for everyone to check each week. So I would go with that, get my strength exercise done. In terms of rep ranges, I don't typically go much lower than 3. Again, and my clients, think of who I'm training versus probably your listeners. There isn't a lot of benefits or certainly or the risks are outweighing the benefits for us to go much lower, because we're not competing, we're not doing powerlifting. We're looking to obviously get strong with the sort of the idea of building around that. And then once we've hit with strength exercise, working through different ranges of the muscle. So as I kind of discussed before with chest, so maybe in terms of the workout, we're looking at like how can I add in different exercises to then fully stress the muscle, whether it's a higher rep set, whether it's a set from a shortened range, a lengthened range. That will form the bulk of the workout, I would say. And then finish off with a finisher or some sort of challenge or something, which would leave with that sort of pump or whatever you like to finish off. That's something I'm always very keen on, so always finishing with a finisher or a challenge, so leave the gym buzzing and happy to have done the session. Just something fun, really, mate. Just do some body weight, something different. Just to finish off.
I must admit, I'll put them in, and I've obviously seen the challenges that you put out there. The 20 rep max deadlift challenge. That sort of went up into the lineup. It might have not been one of my best ideas. Should I do it before a powerlifting competition? But I think the challenges like that, like you say, it's fun. It's just adding another element to training.
So with the training, so obviously going into a bit more detail, Steve did a good post on it the other day in terms of what we're looking for in the workouts. We've got the mechanisms of hypertrophy, so we've got mechanical tension, which is basically like we're going heavy strength exercises. It doesn't necessarily mean you're 1 rep max, it's the exercise or the point where we can get the most tension on the muscle using the right amount of weight some people say it's about 90% you want at max, some people say it's 85, but it's kind of that's your main focus. When I talk about a strength indicator, that's something that I would look to tick off every session in terms of ticking that box. So that's your first mechanism of hypertrophy. Your second one will be like metabolic stress, which is more higher up, like your pump and burn kind of stuff. So that's going to be like your intensity methods, your tri-sets, your drop sets, your giant sets, these kind of things, these advanced methods, or even just simply just doing a little bit of a quicker tempo and higher reps. And then the third area, you've got muscle damage. So they're the three mechanisms, but for the muscle damage, the last one, it doesn't necessarily mean doing specific exercises for it. It can be your volume for the session as a whole, or you could use specific methods. So for muscle damage, we know, I'm sure Steve might do before, more eccentric based stuff's going to cause a lot more damage, working from a stretched position, weighted stretches, I've even tried them, there's some research to say that they work. But those are the three things. I wouldn't necessarily go through it with my clients in terms of saying, oh, this is why you're doing this, but that is why I structure my workouts the way I do, to get those boxes ticked in every session. Like I was saying before, working the muscle through a full range, looking at those mechanisms, hypertrophy. If you're thinking along those lines in every session and just ticking those boxes mentally, you're going to be in a you're going to give yourself much more chance to grow. And you're going to be sort of leaving no stone unturned, so to speak, as opposed to just going in and guessing. I'm sure your listeners don't, but most lads that I speak to in the gym or see in the gym are lifting very similar weights and doing very similar programs to what they were a year ago, and that's why they look the same. That's why they're not getting any stronger, and it's why they're probably just training for the sake of it, and they've maybe fell out of love for a little bit, and they're maybe thinking that massive physique change, like I say in my client, isn't possible. And they probably think it's only possible with steroids or stuff like that, and that's probably because they don't know the benefits of proper programming.
Yeah.
That is honestly the biggest thing I would say. Probably, obviously, I'm a big fan of training, but probably the more so for me than nutrition. I know everyone can learn nutrition, but very few people have learned how to train properly and train hard.
Yeah, I think I know. What I quite like is obviously for anyone that again follows Ross, Bear What Wisdom. Should have brought the bear. The information that's put out there is obviously, as coaches, and you'll probably be the same. We want clients to actually learn what and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
We don't have to go massively into the details, but there is a reason why we do it, and there is research out there to be like, right, this is actually shown to be the best benefit, and like Ross was saying, going to the next level in your training instead of just hitting that wall each time.
I think if you know, obviously maybe listening to podcasts like this, obviously you want to learn more. People like myself, Steve, the information's out there, and the more you learn, the more you buy into it. You can then start to it yourself. We all started somewhere, like some are using a few years, maybe in our position. I just read stuff, went to uni, learned, and then I started applying things and tweaking stuff based on the research, based on articles. I used to always say that I was sort of halfway between science and bro science. I went to uni, I certainly wouldn't consider myself more of a research-based person. I'm not fully bro, I'm in the middle. Yeah. And that's kind of how I apply stuff. Is I like looking at old school bodybuilding methods and methods to grow, and then looking back at science. Right, why does it work? Yeah. And then if I can obviously explain that to my clients, for the ones that want to learn, they'll buy it more. Or at least if I can have my program in that way. Whenever anyone's looking at a program or working with a coach, or you're writing your own programs, I would always just say is like, why are you doing that exercise, and why is it where it is in your workout? If you can explain that, you're going to be a better coach, you're going to be training better, and you're going to probably have a lot better sessions as well. So that would be what I would do. Yeah, I think that's sitting somewhere in the middle is probably the best way to be. Obviously, you need an understanding of actually what's going on. Yeah. But yeah, for anyone who has actually just read any journals, sometimes they're a bit hard work getting through. But then you look at some of the, like you mentioned about the old school bodybuilding, it works. They got in good shape. So yeah, I think it's good to have a balance, and I think that's what you should be looking out for when you're looking for coaches, if you're looking for programming. So moving on to the next bit, obviously we touched on it a little bit about the nutrition. In terms of the training program, that needs to get nailed down. Mentioned about you can learn about nutrition, but is there some go-to points? Obviously mentioned about CRISPR and nutrition, and how does conditioning have a place within your programming? So in terms of the nutrition stuff, I still do nutrition programming for all my clients. I still take a big interest in it, but I mean, I think my approach to it is certainly more of a as I said, old school bodybuilding. I still do macros, still do all weird food plans. I'm all about what definitely works, because the lads that work with me, and some of you might want to try it, I work in very specific time blocks. So I work in like a 10-week block for my main coaching, or I do a 28-day challenge, which is aimed more at fat loss. In both scenarios, it's more having that pressure causes the results. So we're not talking about maybe like long-term flexibility. I'm talking about how to create like a massive amount of change in a short period.
Yeah.
So for that, it needs to be very specific. I'm not saying that that's for everyone all the time, but how I do nutrition is always a weird food plan. And then in terms of actually what the goals are, what you can take home is muscle protein synthesis. We know you can stimulate it every 3 to 4 hours. We need about 3 grams of leucine, 3.5 grams of leucine, which is found in with protein sources in terms of with chicken, with beef, whatever. So all of them are going to have a different amount of leucine in it, a different amount of protein. Depending on your weight, everything like that, we're going to look at how many grams of protein to have per day. But the main thing is once you know, based on your weight, based on the principles of the coaches that you follow, regardless of who it is, I would just say make sure you eat every 3 to 4 hours, because that's how often we can stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Whether it's 1.5 grams per kilogram, 2.5, 3.5, it's changed so much in the time I've been training. I can remember doing programs when I was in uni, it was 4 grams per kilogram, which is a lot. Like obviously now I tend to go around 2 grams, 2.5. But the principle of what we know in terms of for you guys to take away really is the same in that muscle protein synthesis, which is the switch which allows us to build muscle via eating food which is stimulated, let's say, by the leucine and the protein content. That's every 3 to 4 hours. So basically, did you eat protein in the last 3 to 4 hours? Yes or no? Do that 6 times a day, 5 times a day. All I would do is if you wake up at 6 o'clock, eat 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, bed, done.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I do with that is probably have a protein shake after a train. I'll get all my clients to do it, regardless of whether they're eating again an hour later. Some people disagree with that. I always still get to have 2 scoops of protein, 40 grams of protein post-training, no matter when it is, just because we don't know for sure when they're going to have that next meal.
Yeah.
Always do that post-training whey protein, but other than that, like I say, just spread your protein evenly throughout the day. Make sure, so to speak, you're flicking that switch continuously. It's regardless of muscle building or fat loss, that's probably the most important thing. We don't want to be losing muscle on a cut.
Yeah.
We want to be adding as much possible when we're bulking. Too often, lads wanting to add muscle get loose with calories and protein intake, get loose with when they're eating and their eating times. You're missing an opportunity to grow if you're not eating in them time frames. Yeah. So that would be my main thing, is just really focus on nailing your routine, and certainly the protein and calories first is the first option.
Yeah.
I do a lot of nutrient timing stuff with my clients, carbs around training, things like that. Again, depending on who you listen to, what coach it is. For you, I would just say find the coach and the method that you believe in and follow that. But the basis should always be, especially gaining muscle, making sure that you're eating every 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah, I think that's a good, it's a simple way of looking at it. I know sometimes, people will get a lot of questions or ask a lot of questions. And yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. And then you can build everything around that then.
Yes, exactly. I go into a lot of detail with my clients, but that is really the crux of it. That is all it is. It's just then to each person working out exactly how that fits their schedule, when you've got a break at work, what's realistic. A big mistake I made when I first learned about this, when I was younger, was that if I'd already ate protein, I kind of thought, oh, flick that switch, it's not worth eating again because it's within 3 or 4 hours. What happens then is that is kind of half right, but what you've also got to consider is your total calories and your total protein across the day, as opposed to thinking about just hitting it. So there's a few factors, but certainly that would be my go-to thing, just eat every 3 hours basically, protein every 3 hours.
There you go, there's another knowledge bomb for you there. So that's the nutrition side of things, focusing on the protein every 3 to 4 hours. Conditioning. So a lot of people will say, I won't do any conditioning, I'll lose all my muscle mass and all that sort of stuff. What's your take on it? Do you put a big emphasis on it, or how does that sort of work?
It depends on individuals. So for those of you that are typically a skinny kid at school, is it probably wise doing a lot of cardio? It depends on how good you are with your diet and your training alongside it. How I would look at your training is conditioning. How I would look at that is it giving you the capacity and the aerobic or anaerobic capacity to perform sets at an optimal level when we're training? That will be what I would use it for. So is doing cardio helping us perform our main weight sessions better, or we'll be able to get more out of it because of it. It's no good doing a set of 20 rep max squats, as we said before, and then you're absolutely, I'm not swearing because I don't know what your podcast really is, but then you're ruined. Right. Then you're ruined afterwards. then you're ruined afterwards because of it, and your whole session is fucked basically.
Yeah.
So if you do a really big set, or you're finding when you are training that you're doing high rep sets and you're really ruined afterwards, and it's affecting the quality of the session, the total volume or the total weight lift is going to be less, it maybe pays to do some form of conditioning. Obviously the benefits to your heart and everything else goes without saying, your general fitness. Again, depends on where you're at right now. For muscle building, I'm not that keen on keeping cardio. I would do some, but not a lot.
Yeah.
I personally believe in a cut. Cardio is going to be the difference between getting, like, when I'm talking about my transformations, you can guarantee nearly all of them lads done some cardio, because it's that little thing to get you to the next level. A lot of the time you need a coach, or you need me or Steve or someone to tell you to do it, and you will, but a lot of time people out there probably know what they should be doing, they just need reassurance, or they just need telling, like, look, you need to be more of a deficit, go do half an hour cardio in the morning, or go do whatever. The one take home point, I would say, no matter what stage you're at, for all of it, whether it's powerlifting, bodybuilding, your general aesthetics, for all of it, training is our focus and it's what we enjoy. I would never want anyone to be doing cardio at the point where it's a detriment to your training, where it's taken away from your main sessions, where you're going in your sessions in the evening and you're saying, oh, do you know what, my legs are so tight from sore when I can't squat. So again, depending on the stage you're at in your prep, in your diet, in your lead up to a competition, I would change the type of cardio based on that. If you're high calories, you might be able to do more HIIT, maybe do shorter. When you get in the tail end of a competition, you probably would want to avoid that. But yeah, again, it's to sum up, conditioning is using it the right way. At the end of the day, we aren't, let's be realistic here, I've got a very specific niche, and the lads I help, I want to get them in shape. We might want to look like athletes, but we're not athletes. We want to do the minimal effective dose of cardio to look that way, and find the methods that are best for that, not just doing cardio for cardio's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no point sort of hammering yourself into the ground, because as well, like we're chatting there, you want to get some recovery and you can't be knackered for the next session. Because realistically, the strength training, the muscle building workouts, that's going to be the main bulk. Of why you're wanting to get into shape.
Equally, if you love cardio, if you've got something that you're doing regularly, if it's football, if it's running, cycling, whatever it is, I would never tell a client to stop doing something, unless it was maybe he's coming up to a show or a photo shoot, or it was really affecting that training. But what I think you need to be aware of is that you definitely need to change your training and your nutrition around it, and that your training programming throughout the week should work in synergy with anything like that you're doing, not against it. A lot of lads, again, I work with your standard lads, play football on a Saturday. Obviously, I'm not going to have them running, or maybe I'm not going to have them lifting legs on the same day they're doing football training, vice versa. So just having a bit of a thought process and looking at it as a whole across your week.
Sweet. So definitely answered a couple of questions on there. Obviously, you mentioned about people getting into a shape maybe for a holiday or an event because something coming up, or just basically because they want to take the training to the next, or take the physique to the next level. What's sustainable? What's realistic? Because obviously people have it in their minds of, you see the bodybuilders and they're absolutely shredded. Is that all year round, or do you have seasons or periods of time where, right, we're going to go through this phase of training, then we're going to change it? How does that sort of work?
So, good question. So I think this is something obviously that a lot of lads wonder, and like I was saying earlier, the main thing is learning that what's possible with the right training and diet. Because a lot of you out there probably don't really know. You might think you know, but you've maybe never really dieted. Probably it's why I do a 28-day challenge, which is more of an actual, kind of like a 4-week look or 4-week attempt into almost a bodybuilder style prep. The results in that are like 10 kilo loss is the best in 28 days, but it's fat loss. I'm not looking just at weight. The point with that is, what I'm saying is that in terms of your sustainability, you first need to know what's possible in terms of following a proper diet and following a proper training program. And then with that, just like anything else, I work in 10-week blocks over a longer term period. That's what I found worked best. I've done 12 before, I've tried 16. 10 weeks is always good. having a little break afterwards, reassessing, going again, either like, a week off the gym or a deload period, just like you guys would do, and then reassessing and going again. The sustainability of it, I think, comes with the approach and how engaging it is for the clients, which again is why most lads are disillusioned with it, because they're doing the same training they were a year ago and they haven't got any specific goals. So, in terms of maybe keeping it interesting for you, for every 10-week block that I work with a client, I want to work on 2 specific body parts. So whether it's quads and chest or whatever it is, tend to pick maybe an upper and a lower or 2 opposing upper groups. I wouldn't do chest and shoulders at the same time. I don't think they're a good thing to work together. But having a specific goal for a training block is going to give you a lot more focus. Then you can reflect, go for a new one, and keep repeating that process. And make it fun. I think obviously my stuff is very, very serious, but by having the finishers, the challenges, having those things in, my kind of attitude with my clients is kind of proving what's possible naturally, and having that as a statement that you're going out to prove it. And then at the end of it, equally enjoying yourself. Like, everyone drinks, everyone goes out, whatever you're doing on the weekend, but knowing that there's a cost to pay for that, and there's a sacrifice, you're sacrificing it for an amount of time. Do 10 weeks and then go out on a weekend and get wrecked or whatever you need to do. Have a break, come back and do another 10. Everyone's different. A lot of people struggle, I think, maybe having a goal or training something. That is often the case because your goal setting isn't either big enough or it's not something that's specific to you, whether that's because you don't believe in picking it, or you haven't, if you have something that really ignites a fire within you and you want to add so much muscle, you want to get a body part better, something that excites your training, you're gonna really focus on it and you'll stick with it. If you're just saying, I want to get in better shape, I know that's what most lads come to you for initially, but there's a reason why behind it. You need to tap into that, and that will definitely improve the sustainability long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, following the stuff that you put out there, it's got to be sustainable for you. Nobody's perfect, like Ross is saying. Everyone likes a beer. Everyone likes going out, and I think that's a good thing to implement with the people that you're coaching. I
think obviously on the sustainability thing, I think now it's becoming a more and more popular word in the industry. Like for us coaches, it's because PTs are very wary of telling people no, and it's becoming such a saturated market that people don't want to lose clients and lose the opportunity to work with a client. Like, if you come with me and you've got a bad idea, I'll tell you no. And in terms of the sustainability side of it, yes, it's got to be sustainable long term, but I would initially say let's make some progress first. So via the 10-week coaching that I do, or for you setting your own goals at home, set some benchmarks, have check-ins, have some key points where you can say, look, I'm going to diet for 4 weeks perfectly, and then I'm going to have it. And it's not forever. Me and Steve didn't go to uni and think, do you know what, I can see myself doing this the rest of my life, but we wanted to get educated properly to then go away and do something else. So with your training and stuff, again, this is why I offer something that's more short-term, 28-day challenge. I do the 10-week one. Every coach is going to be different, and you can try different things yourself. What I would say is that don't sacrifice your progress for sustainability initially. Because a lot of the time now, people are just soft, and PTs are generally saying you can do everything and you can't, and that's why not many people are getting great results. I would say see at least some progress first. And sustainability, flexibility, the ability to have a choice, in my opinion, of my clients, is earned, not given from the start. And that's not me being an arse about it. That's just fact. Someone's paying you for a result, and I want to get them in mint shape. And for you yourself that are listening to this, you're obviously interested in training, interested in learning. You probably owe it to yourself sometimes to be stricter, because if you are taking the time to listen to this and to learn and read, you deserve to be in better shape, and sometimes you have got to sacrifice, but certainly the further along the path you are, the more sustainable it becomes. Someone like Chris Lowe, his nutrition stuff, much more sustainable than my stuff, but he's working with athletes or people where it is their whole life, and it's much more of a slower process. I prefer to work with lads in a much more time concentrated thing, and once they've had some very, very shocking, clear buy-in and results, then I say let's make it a little bit more sustainable. That would be my thing.
I think when people see results as well, it's a little bit, I can stick with it a little bit longer now. But you've got to add in that. I don't think
no matter what you do, even if you do it in a sustainable way, you're still going to be making some sort of changes. The problem is if you're making some sort of changes in your head mentally, no matter who you are, you're probably thinking that you're making big changes. Whether I believe that or not, each person's different. for you making a big change, if you're making what you believe to be as a big change, even if it is sustainable, right, I would rather see in 4 to 6 weeks that you've made some clear progress. If you make it you're doing it anyway, you're already probably feeling like you're doing something different, so you might as well go all in, see some very, very clear results, and then keep tweaking it from there. Unless you're very, very advanced, I personally don't like the whole flexibility thing. Certainly I use it, a lot more coaches use it and things, but what you would understand is the coaches and a lot of the people that you probably follow on Instagram have been training for like years and years and years. They can eyeball food and they know roughly what it is. You might not be at that stage yet, and even if you are, what I would say is it getting you results, or do you look the way you want to look? And if you don't, maybe you're prepared to sacrifice short term to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, couldn't have summed that up any better really. I think that's main when it boils down to it. When people are coming in and I want a training program, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's a little bit like, well, you've got to give a little bit to then to progress forward.
Yep.
So quite a lot of things covered in there. I know some of the things, it sort of reassured me that I'm not going too far on, and I've picked some points that I'll definitely take forward with my clients. Obviously summed up that each of every little bit, sort of like the take-home points. But out of everything we've chatted about today, and for people listening, what would be your take-home points or your words of wisdom?
For muscle gain and for lads who generally want to get in the best shape possible, I think that the key thing is having a plan and having a very clear goal, having a time frame, because that deadline is going to give you some pressure to work towards rather than just having some random time in the future. Having a very clear cut-off point and a specific thing that you want to achieve in that time, setting some checkpoints along the way, and doing that with both your training, your diet, and everything really. So looking at it as a whole, and like I say, in every session, look at what I said in terms of the activating the main lift, covering all your bases, so you're giving yourself the best opportunity to grow regardless. Follow people like Steve, follow different coaches, learn, but be prepared to put the time in on the method that you've chosen first, get the most you can out of it, and then move on once you've exhausted that sort of avenue, if you like. But yeah, the main thing I think would be have a very, very clear plan. Of what you want to achieve and some specific goals in mind, and form everything else around that, and be really determined to get it. Don't be swayed on your path.
Awesome. So I really enjoyed that chat. I hope everyone listening has sort of taken some points from there. Obviously Ross, he's got his process down to a T, and he puts some really good content out there. So for anyone who might want to follow the content that you put out there, or even get involved in training with you to take their training to the next level, where can people find you and get involved in training with you? So
obviously my name is Ross Mackenley. The brand or my business is called Aesthetically Trained. Good luck spelling it. It's quite difficult to spell. But no, Aesthetically Trained on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or just search Ross Mackenley. You'll find us. The website is aestheticallytrained.com. In terms of working with us, I offer personal training in Leeds 1 day per week, and I'm in Newcastle as well. Pretty limited spaces on both, because the main thing that I do is online coaching, and with that it's either the 28-day challenge, which is kind of like an entry level sort of for all lads to come in and work with us for 28 days, having almost an attempt to try in this sort of more aesthetics-based training, diet and lifestyle. And then for those of you who's more invested and want to work with us on a longer term basis, I also offer the 10-week transformation, which is more of an ongoing online coaching format. But yeah, that's it, aestheticallytrained.com.
Awesome. Definitely, even if you want to just learn more, or if you definitely want to take your physique, take your training to the next level, definitely look at Ross.
And any questions, because as Steve mentioned, I walk my dog, Bear Walk Wisdom. I cover people's questions pretty much every other day when I'm walking Bear. So if you've got a specific question, or even you want to know how to structure your own training, I'm always happy to help. Information's out there for all of us. Steve gives a lot of good information away. I do. It's at the end of the day, it's us as personalities that you would want to work with. I've got no problem in telling you how I do stuff. It's up to you to apply it. So feel free to get in touch.
Definitely look Ross up. Absolutely awesome. Puts awesome content out there. I've enjoyed chatting with you. I hope everyone else has enjoyed it. Thanks to everyone listening. Thanks for taking the time to chat. And I'll see you all next week.
Thanks.